All right, so today we are talking about meaning making. Earlier this week, um, one of y'all had shared a story about how they overcame their allergies and they didn't even recognize when it was that the allergies ceased happening. All they remember was when we first started working together and I worked on explaining to them meaning making, and actually we worked on meaning making throughout the week. And I said that I would cover meaning making on today's presentation. So um that's that's what that's what precipitated this presentation. I'm actually excited about this presentation because I did a deeper dive into how, because Neville never specifically spoke about excuse me, Neville never specifically spoke about meaning making, but what he would say is that our reactions to life are indicative of our dwelling place or our state of consciousness. And so essentially you can say however you are reacting to life, in other words, whatever meaning you are making in any given moment is indicative of whatever state of consciousness that you are in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And in researching what Neville had to say about this, I stumbled across the 12 disciples, or the 12 disciplines of mind. And even though we're not going to necessarily talk about the 12 disciples per se, that's where a lot of these notes are going to be coming from, is this idea that essentially, in order to not be triggered into your old state or your old way of being, um, you need to get a handle on the meaning that you are making. And the best way to go about that is by disciplining your mind to look again, recognize where your true power comes from, and so on and so forth. So, as y'all pay attention to today's presentation, I want y'all to really look at your own experiences, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it doesn't really even matter all that much. But notice how these things that are external to you trigger something within you, and also recognize that when you are triggered, it's an invitation for you to recognize the truth. Recognize the truth. All right. So let's talk about triggers. According to Google, triggers are an internal or external, or they're internal or external, and can include people, places, and things or situations. They can also be sensory stimuli, such as sounds, smells, and taste. All right. Triggers um, are things that happen to you internally or externally that are caused by people, places, or things or situations. They can also be sensory stimuli such as sounds, smells, or taste. So, whatever it is that you are sensing with your eyes, whatever it is that you are feeling with your fingers, whatever it is that you're tasting with your tongue are triggers. So triggers aren't good or bad things. Triggers are just things that are happening, that are showing you an experience is happening. Okay? Triggers are just neutral things that happen to show you an experience that you are able to perceive with your senses. That said, when these neutral things happen to us, we make meaning. Or as Google would say, the process of inferring or constructing meaning from a sequence of words, symbols, or signs. Okay? We construct a whole idea. We construct a whole story. And we make it mean something essentially. And this process is often unconscious and relies on factors such as context, cultural backgrounds, and past experiences. So a trigger happens and you make meaning, and you go through a process of unconscious thinking to basically make it make sense. All right. So meaning making enables humans to convey complex ideas, emotions, and thoughts to others, facilitating effective communication and understanding. All right. So when we make meaning, what we're essentially doing is enabling ourselves to come up with a reason or a logic as to, we're basically trying to communicate with ourselves, our understanding of ourselves. All right. The meaning that we make facilitates our own understanding of what our concept of ourself is. So when we make meaning, we make it mean something about us. So when one of our group members, shared with us the other day that they were dealing with allergies and all this type of stuff, and we talked about the meaning, what I tried to help what I tried to help them understand was when you're having the sniffles, your automatic meaning that you're making is that the sniffles means the allergies are coming on and I better take all these pills and all this type of stuff, which only helps make more meaning as to I'm somebody who suffers with allergies. I've always suffered with allergies. I'm suffering from allergies right now, and I will continue to suffer with allergies. That's what he was doing automatically. The invitation for us, though, is not to be imagining automatically, but manually. And so what I mean by this is, um, so the automatic meaning that we make occurs when we process information quickly and intuitively without explicit conscious consideration. So we get used to a particular state of being. Most of the time it's unconscious. We're not even realizing that that's what we've been doing. And we accept something to be true about ourselves. Okay. And once we accept something to be true about ourselves, we enter automatic meaning. All right. And so because it's efficient, it keeps this state of consciousness alive. All right. In contrast, manual meaning making involves explicit and conscious efforts to understand and interpret information. So when we're manually making meaning, we're actually consciously choosing. So this neutral a trigger happens that we automatically make mean bad. If we're operating under manual meaning making, we can have that same trigger happen and we can actually make it mean something that's actually in line with our ideal state of consciousness that we're trying to operate under. So while automatic meaning making is often efficient, manual meaning making enables critical thinking and nuanced understanding, or it requires imaginal acts. It requires your imagination. Okay. So my mentor taught me this many years ago, and it still rings true to this day. He said that I am imagining meaning all the time. I live in a mostly imaginal world. Most people are imagining meaning most of the time. If I imagine meaning on autopilot, anxiety, frustration, poverty, and separation will be the result. If y'all can understand this, it will absolutely change everything that is going on in your life. That I am imagining meaning all the time. I live in a mostly imaginal world. Most people are imagining meaning most of the time. If I imagine meaning on autopilot, anxiety, frustration, poverty, and separation will be the result. All right. So y'all stick with this phrase. If you need to write it down, write it down. But y'all try to contemplate on this phrase this week. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now, right, going forward, is we're going to talk about essentially what's going on when we get triggered, okay, and how to really discipline our mind so that way what we're seeing here on the screen right now that you're imagining meaning all the time actually makes sense and you can coherently um and I should say not coherently, but you can actually walk the bridge of incident with the knowing that what you desire to be is already done, despite all all the proof on the outside that says otherwise. All right. So the disciplined mind. Now, this is all coming from the 12 disciples or the 12 qualities of mind, but they're good to know. I'm not going into the 12 qualities of mind per se, each individual disciple or anything like that. Just follow along on, on these notes that I'm putting here and just remember this is what we're going to be working on in this next week. So you just focus here, okay? If suggestions are not in keeping with that which he hears, he remains unmoved. You must be true and faithful to your end, despite what is being shown. Learn to be patiently waiting in the knowledge that you are already the person that you want to be. Reason and evidence of your senses may say otherwise, yet and still sustain the state and it will be realized. So no matter what is showing up, you must stay true to the scene, to the state of the wish fulfilled and sustain that state. Okay. Also, learn to revise. No matter what it is that shows up, learn to revise it. Right. To not be on autopilot means to return good for evil or love for hate, whatever, for health for poor diagnosis, so on and so forth. And you must learn not to judge by appearances, right? You learn to be incapable of hearing and accepting as true or makes you feel anything less than love, anything less than peace, anything less than calm, anything less than love. So it is to persist until your ideas, ambitions, and desires become embodied realities. So again, this whole presentation is reiteration about what to do when the triggers happen. If you're being triggered into a state of anxiety and frustration and doubt and worry, learn to turn your manual meaning making on so that way you're incapable of hearing and accepting as true anything that's less than ideal. So in other words, you have to have total indifference. So you want to adopt an attitude of total indifference to all suggestions that are foreign to that which you desire to be. And it shouldn't be a struggle to be indifferent. So when we recognize this trigger, recognize it as a gift because it's showing you a desire. It's that trigger that's making you feel bad, quote unquote bad, is actually an invitation for you to fulfill a desire. The thing you are witnessing as a trigger is an invitation to recognize the gift of God or the solution. So we feel the fulfillment. You don't need to know the how. You don't need to know why this is happening. All you need is to fulfill the desire you're seeking. So don't be led by the appearances. Don't be led by the story you tell yourself, but rather be led by the ideal state of consciousness. When you operate from this state, things move way smoother. So Thanksgiving, a lot of teachers often talk about, just be grateful, for the things you have and this and the other, which is great and everything. But when you truly understand this metaphysical principle of gratitude, you'll recognize that, yes, be grateful for the things that are going on out here, but everything that's going on out here is old news, anyways. Everything comes from within. And if you can truly learn to discipline your gratitude to be within, praise and thanksgiving will be forever on your lips. You won't even, you won't have to, mm, you won't force the gratitude on the outside because you'll forever be grateful within. So praise and thanksgiving are to be given to the invisible you and the invisible things. It's not enough to be grateful for the things you have in the physical world, but to be grateful for the unseen, the desired reality. So praise and thanksgiving, according to Neville, are to the invisible gifts of God what rain and sun are to the unseen seeds in the bloom of the earth. So if you can learn to be grateful for that thing, you want the new car, or you want a better diagnosis from the doctor, or you want um you want your spouse to show up in a completely transformed way. Yes, be grateful for the things external, true, but be grateful for the things within most of the time. Why? Why most of the time? Because I'm going back here. But the reason why we do that most of the time is because we live in an imaginal world all the time. So we want to be grateful within all the time. For what? For all that is unseen. So if you're able to do this, you'll eventually get to the place where you can hear nothing but good news in all things that unfold. You'll see the perfection everywhere. You'll see the complete and finished kingdom is at hand. And if you can master your autopilot meaning making, you can truly die to your old man and recognize that your I am is the only power and thusly your only savior. So again, when something is triggering you out of the ideal state, it is an invitation to recognize the ever-present fulfillment. And if you're doing this on autopilot, it becomes uh it becomes automatic because you're in automatic, it is automatic for you to react in certain ways. And so if you want to die to that man, you have to go into the manual pilot and choose again and choose again. But the more often you start choosing and you get into manual mode, you will never rely on an external power. and that will become your new autopilot. It will just you'll just want to do it. So I am is the true power. The power isn't the trigger, the thing that's triggering you. The power isn't the story that you're telling. The power isn't that other person. It's not that other place. It's not that other circumstance. It is I am. You'll eventually get to the place where you can hear nothing but good news in all things that unfold. You'll see the perfection everywhere. You'll see the complete and finished kingdom is at hand. And if you can master your autopilot, meaning making, you can truly die to your old man and recognize that your I am is the only power and thusly your only savior, which I just said on the previous page. So I apologize. It looks like I made two of the same pages, but it needed to be repeated. So when you're being triggered, are you going to react as the old man or are you going to respond as the new man? We have to die to the old man. And until we die to the old man, we can't live as the ideal man. So you must come to a place where you die to any seeking of validation from external things and declare who you are to be and completely die to who you were yesterday. So in the case of one of you guys who was sharing the other day how they overcame their allergies and didn't even know it, when you change and say, no, I'm no longer somebody who suffers with allergies, or even better, I don't have allergies. It's not even that I no longer, I just don't suffer from allergies. You truly embody that, the triggers won't even be doing anything to you. So when the triggers do come, like the sniffles or that headache or the cough, and you can, in awareness, put your attention on the fact that you are healed, you've revised. You've learned to be the ideal man. So, all that said, you guys, y'all are awesome. Thank y'all for being here and listening and enjoying this presentation of meaning making. Uh, I trust that it landed well for you guys. I'd love to open the floor to Q&A, or just some insights. Uh, but other than that, you guys are awesome. Peace and hair grease.
Hey Jerry, can you go back to the meaning making slide? I joined a little bit late.
Yeah, no problem. So for yeah, I'll back up. I'll back up. Let's go through this quickly. Um, so first off, the triggers are neutral things that are happening, and they happen. They're internal, they're external. They come from people, places, and things, and the circumstances and situations that happen in our life. Um, and the way we experience triggers is through our senses. Triggers aren't a bad thing, and triggers aren't a good thing. They are a neutral phenomena to life. All right. They are neutral phenomena that happen in life. We make meaning by we make meaning by adding story, constructing a story or a sequence of words or symbols and signs and say that and give meaning to that trigger. And often it's actually unconscious and relies on factors such as context and the story and background and well, this is just the way things are and so on and so forth. It's basically our past experiences. And when we are making meaning, it enables us to communicate with ourselves, our understanding of ourself concept, and the concept that we have about the outside world. All right. So it's our way of communicating with ourselves and others for that matter, but what we operate under here is the idea that there's no one to change but ourselves. So we're always working on self. So automatic meaning making occurs when the information is just automatic. This thing happened and that's how I react. That's just the way it is. And the reason why we do that, the reason why we react the way we do automatically is because of our state of consciousness. And if we can learn to make our meaning manually, we can then choose to enter the state of consciousness that we want to be in our case, the ideal state of consciousness. So when we're trying to enter the new man, when we're trying to see ourselves completely different, we have to be conscious about what meaning we're making on all sorts of things that are happening in our life. If let's say you're having a health issue and you get triggered, something triggers a reaction out of you like I'm never going to be healthy or I'm always sick or so on and so forth. You need to learn how to contrast that with your manual meaning making and just say, I'm healed. I'm always healthy. Uh, I don't know, understand why my doctor keeps giving me these poor diagnoses because I'm healthy or whatever it is. However you want to make the meaning, it's up to you. Uh, and then we got into the disciplines of mind, which helps us make those conscious meaning makings. Were you here for that part, Armors?
I was not.
Okay, cool. I'll rifle through this as well real quick. It's good for a
Thank
quick
you.
summary anyways. So the disciplined mind or the 12 qualities of mind or the 12 disciples is a good study. If y'all want to, y'all can find it online for free. Maybe I will, in fact, I'll write it down. I will share with y'all a PDF or a website that y'all can go to and read the 12 disciples for yourself. You can also go to my Instagram where I have lessons on it. And in fact, actually, now that you think about it, I believe that there is a module on in the group on the Imaginarium course page where you can where I know I did a presentation on the 12 disciples, so it's already all there. So we're not going to dive too deep into this again, Armors. You can go back and do that, but this should
Will do.
suffice. This should suffice for you. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, no problem. So if suggestions are not in keeping with that which he hears, he remains unmoved. So if things are happening that are not in keeping with your ideal state, you remain unmoved. You must be true and faithful to your end despite what is being shown to you. And essentially, these next slides are in repetition of this very statement right here. So what we need to do is learn to be patiently in waiting in the knowledge that you already are that person. Okay. So even though the reason and the evidence of your senses say otherwise, you must hold steadfastly to the ideal state of consciousness, and you must sustain that throughout. So, um, essentially, to be in to be in manual mode is to choose to revise. It is to choose to see it again, tell a different story. You share something with yourself that implies that your wish is fulfilled right now. If something negative happened, what would imply that it didn't happen? Okay, that would imply it. Go there, see that. Okay, that is what you do with your triggers. All right. And if you get this in practice, you become incapable of hearing anything that is not in keeping with your ideal state. So in other words, we need to have total indifference, all right? By adopting a new attitude. That's what we talked about last week. Attitude awareness and imaginal control. So we want to adopt the attitude of total indifference to all suggestions that are foreign to that which you desire to be. And it shouldn't be a struggle to be indifferent. You just recognize it for what it is, a neutral event that's occurring, and I am telling something that is empowering to my ideal, because I know that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So if I'm imagining meaning on autopilot, I'm more likely to be assuming something that doesn't take me to my ideal. So I recognize that triggers are actually a gift. Triggers are actually a gift for me to experience the state of the wish fulfilled. All right. So we feel the fulfillment. Um, you don't need to know the how. All you need to do is fulfill the desire that is at hand. So you don't be led by the appearances of the world, but rather be in the ideal state. It's another way of saying I am not in this world. I'm sorry. I'm not of this world. I'm in this world, but not of this world. So when we operate from the ideal state, things move way faster. So go ahead and fulfill that feeling now. And if we do this, if we discipline ourselves and really get into this understanding of automatic meaning making, we should be able to cultivate a internal sense of thanksgiving. Right? Praise and thanksgiving are to the invisible gifts of God what rain and sun are to the unseen seeds in the bloom of the earth. Right? So, yes, we give gratitude to the things that happen in the external world and this any other, but what we are trying to do is learning to be grateful for that which we can't even see with our external senses. Because imagining creates reality. So, if you can master your automatic meaning making, you can truly die to your old man, and you'll recognize where your true power is, and your true power is I am. That's where we want to be, because recognizing this true power allows us to die to the old man. And until we die to the old man, we can't live as the ideal man. So you must come to a place where you die to any seeking of validation from external and declare from the external and declare who you are to be and completely die to who you were yesterday. You must see the wish fulfilled, and you must see it now. Wow, I just did a speed run there. Peace and hair grease. So yeah, opening the floor up to Q&A. Or no, it doesn't even need to be questions. It could just be insights or anything that you might have picked up along the way.